What if ancient sea monsters weren't just myths, but glimpses into a hidden past? From Native American legends to modern sightings, stories of colossal marine predators echo through time. Could the depths of our oceans still harbor relics of these prehistoric titans, like Plesiosaurs, mosasaurs, or even a surviving Megalodon? Starting with Plesiosaurs, a group of marine reptiles inhabited the seas from the Triassic period to the end of the Cretaceous, spanning a time from about 251.9 to 66 million years ago. These fascinating animals had boat-like bodies and four flippers, with some species sporting incredibly long necks, reminiscent of the fabled Loch Ness Monster. Plesiosaurs came in various sizes, from relatively small species to giants reaching lengths of up to 39 feet. Michael Caldwell, a vertebrate paleontologist at the University of Alberta, notes that plesiosaurs were not only odd compared to modern animals, but also globally distributed and highly diverse. Some plesiosaurs, like Tanystropheus hydroides, had bizarre broomstick-like necks, stretching to 10 feet in length, 3 times the length of their torsos. These strange proportions made them ungainly and awkward creatures, challenging our understanding of marine adaptations. Mosasaurs, another group of marine reptiles, ruled the seas during the late Cretaceous period. These powerful predators could grow to impressive sizes, with some species like Mosasaurus hoffmanni reaching estimated lengths of around 56 feet. Mosasaurs were apex predators, known to prey on a wide variety of marine life, including other mosasaurs. Their reign lasted until they went extinct, alongside the non-avian dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period, about 66 million years ago. Ichthyosaurs, often described as reptilian versions of dolphins, evolved to have streamlined, fish-like bodies. These creatures first appeared around 250 million years ago and went extinct about 90 million years ago. While some ichthyosaur species were as small as 1 foot long, others grew to enormous sizes. A fossilized jawbone discovered in the UK suggests the existence of an ichthyosaur potentially more than 85 feet in length, rivaling the size of modern blue whales. Among other notable extinct marine creatures, the Megalodon stands out as one of the most fearsome predators to ever inhabit the oceans. This giant shark, which lived between 23 million and 2.6 million years ago, is estimated to have reached lengths of up to 60 feet, or possibly even 80 feet. With a jaw large enough to swallow a modern orca in just a few bites, the Megalodon was truly an apex predator of its time. Basilosaurus, despite its name meaning king lizard, was actually an early whale that lived from 37.8 to 33.9 million years ago. This creature had a long, serpent-like body that could stretch up to 59 feet in length. Initially mistaken for a marine reptile, Basilosaurus represents an important step in the evolution of modern whales. Dunkleosteus, an armored fish from the Devonian period, was once thought to reach lengths of up to 30 feet. However, recent studies suggest it was closer to 13 feet long, but exceptionally robust. This predator possessed blade-like jaws capable of slicing through any prey it could consume. Other fascinating extinct sea creatures include Helicoprion, or the buzzsaw sharks, a group of shark-like fish with spiral jaws that resembled the edge of a buzzsaw. These predators lived from the Devonian to the Triassic period and could grow up to 25 feet long, surpassing the size of modern great white sharks. The Cambrian period, which began about 538.8 million years ago, saw an explosion of bizarre marine life forms. Creatures like Habelia optata, a tiny predator with a helmet-like head and creepy mouth appendages, and Lirarapax unguispinus, a claw-faced arthropod that was one of the world's first apex predators, showcased the incredible diversity of life during this time. As we transition from ancient sea monsters to more recent history, we encounter the phenomenon of the Great American Sea Serpent. The 19th century saw a surge of interest in sea serpent sightings, particularly along the Atlantic coast of North and South America. This period marked the dawn of an age when legend met science, with the idea that scientific inquiry could solve ancient mysteries. One of the most famous incidents occurred in August 1817 off the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts. Multiple witnesses reported sighting a strange creature in the water, described variously as a dark, sinuous animal, moving vertically like a caterpillar, or resembling a long line of barrels riding high in the water. The Linnean Society of Massachusetts even proposed that it was a new species, which they named Scoliophis atlanticus. Captain Joseph Woodward of the schooner Adamant reported a dramatic encounter with the supposed sea serpent off Cape Ann in May 1818. He claimed to have fired a cannon at the creature, which then advanced toward the ship with open jaws. Woodward's account, like many others of the time, portrayed the sea serpent as an aggressive, ship-attacking monster. He described the serpent shaking its head and tail in an extraordinary manner, almost touching the vessel and remaining in the area for 5 hours. Another significant sighting occurred on August 6, 1848, involving the crew of the HMS Daedalus. While sailing off the coast of Africa, they observed what they described as an enormous fish, swimming past their boat with its head 4 feet out of the water. Captain Peter McQuarrie reported that the creature had a mane like a horse, or possibly seaweed, washed about its back. The head was described as flat and snake-like. This sighting became particularly important in the modern history and lore of sea serpents. As these sightings captured public imagination, scientists attempted to explain the phenomena. Various theories were proposed, including the possibility that witnesses were misidentifying known animals or even seeing surviving specimens of extinct species. Some proposed that it was a seal or sea lion mistaken for a snake, while others suggested it might be a plesiosaur that had survived extinction. One common explanation for sea serpent sightings is the misidentification of basking sharks. These massive fish, the second largest in the ocean, can present a strange and impressive sight. They swim with their large mouths open just below the surface, with their conical snouts protruding above water, potentially resembling a snake's head. Their gill slits, which nearly encircle their necks, could be mistaken for a mane-like feature often attributed to sea serpents. When hunted, basking sharks have sometimes attacked ships, and they may jump out of the water, behaviors that could be interpreted as aggressive sea serpent activity. The giant oarfish or ribbonfish is another species frequently associated with sea serpent sightings. In January 1860, a specimen washed up on Hungary Bay in Bermuda, providing a tangible example of a creature that could easily be mistaken for a mythical sea serpent. Oarfish can grow to impressive lengths, with well-documented specimens reaching about 30 feet long. Their lack of scales, bright red dorsal fin, and hair-like sensory filaments could easily be interpreted as the features of a legendary sea monster by startled observers. The frilled shark is yet another candidate for some sea serpent sightings. This deep-sea dweller has a sinuous body and an unusual boxy head with multiple gill slits that could be perceived as a mane. Found in the deep waters of the North Atlantic, off the coast of the United States, and in the seas around Japan, the frilled shark might explain some commonalities in sea serpent legends across different cultures. It's important to note that the perception and interpretation of these sightings were heavily influenced by existing myths and legends about sea monsters. Tales of sea serpents are among the oldest stories in human culture, found in many parts of the world. From the Scandinavian myths to the South Asian Naga, the Japanese Ryujin, and the Inuit Tijeruk, sea serpent legends share common theme across diverse cultures. The source of European sea serpent legends is often thought to be Scandinavian myths and tales. Folklorists have seen these as part of Indo-European history, given the similarities between these tales and myths from South Asia. Recent DNA studies have revised our understanding of early human migrations, suggesting that peoples traveling out of Africa went farther east and south than previously thought. This raises the possibility that sea serpent tales in various parts of the world may be related, all inspired by stories of large land snakes and sea snakes from South Asia. In many of these myths, a gigantic sea serpent is responsible for tides, floods, and waves. The great Naga god of the oceans in South Asian mythology, the sea serpent of Norse tales, and the Japanese ocean Ryujin all share this role as rulers of the sea. While these connections are tempting to draw, they remain difficult to prove conclusively. As Americans and Europeans of the 19th century considered scientific approaches to sea serpents, they still carried many preconceived notions that colored their observations and reactions. From early times, sea serpents were seen as monsters that could attack ships and eat sailors. They were also generally thought of as reptiles. It took some time before these basic assumptions were questioned. In conclusion, while many of the sea monsters reported throughout history can be explained by misidentification of known species or influenced by cultural myths, the ocean continues to surprise us. The discovery of new species and the observation of rarely seen deep-sea creatures remind us that there is still much to learn about life beneath the waves. From the ancient Plesiosaurs and mosasaurs to the mysterious creatures of modern sea serpent sightings, the history of sea monsters reflects our enduring fascination with the unknown depths of our oceans. Homo habilis. Meet Homo habilis, the evolutionary oddball that defied logic. With ape-like arms, human-like hands, and a knack for crafting tools, these ancient ancestors were survivalists in a world of saber-toothed predators and monstrous crocodiles. How did this handyman shape human evolution while remaining a mystery in our lineage? Neanderthals. Homo erectus. This ancient hominin, whose very name translates to handyman in Latin, is widely recognized as one of the earliest members of our genus, Homo. But make no mistake, these were no ordinary humans. Homo habilis was a bizarre amalgamation of ape-like and human-like features that would have looked downright alien and unsettling to our modern eyes. Imagine a creature with a small, rounded skull, a protruding ape-like jaw, and long, gangly arms, yet somehow possessing the dexterous hands and budding technological prowess of a nascent toolmaker. This was Homo habilis, a true evolutionary weirdo that defies easy classification and sparks endless debates among paleontologists. The story of Homo habilis' discovery is a tale worthy of a blockbuster movie. It all began in the 1950s when a dynamic duo of anthropologists, Lewis and Mary Leakey, were scouring the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, searching for traces of humanity's earliest ancestors. Their perseverance paid off in spades when, in 1959 and 1960, their team unearthed a series of finds: teeth, a lower jaw, and even a partial juvenile skull. These remains were unlike anything they had encountered before, hinting at a creature that was somehow more advanced than the ape-like Australopithecus, yet not quite as evolved as the later Homo erectus. In 1964, the Leakeys, along with their colleagues Philip Tobias and John Napier, officially presented this newfound species to the world, dubbing it Homo habilis. It was a pivotal moment in the field of paleoanthropology, for this discovery shifted the search for the earliest humans from Asia to the wilds of Africa. Characteristics of Homo habilis. Now, what made Homo habilis so peculiar? Well, let's start with their brain size. While these early hominins had a significantly larger cranial capacity than their Australopithecine predecessors, averaging around 640 cubic centimeters, they were still pint-sized compared to the beefy brains of Homo erectus, which could reach up to 1,000 cubic centimeters. But size isn't everything, my friends, and Homo habilis more than made up for their relatively small noggins with a unique blend of ape-like and human-like features. Their skull was rounded and lacked the heavy brow ridges and protruding jaws of later humans, giving them a rather alien-like appearance. And while their hands were remarkably dexterous, their limb proportions were still a bit on the ape-like side, with long arms and relatively short legs. Some experts have argued that these early hominins were little more than a variant of the earlier Australopithecus genus, while others insist that they deserve their own distinct place within the Homo lineage. And then there's the whole Homo rudolfensis debacle, a closely related species that some believe should be lumped in with Homo habilis, while others maintain that they're separate entities. It's a veritable evolutionary quagmire, made all the more complicated by the fragmentary nature of the Homo habilis fossil record. With only a handful of relatively complete specimens to study, paleontologists have been left to piece together the puzzle of this species' origins and relationships, often coming to wildly different conclusions. As paleontologist Bernard Wood eloquently stated, the discovery of Homo habilis should remind us of how much we don't know, rather than how much we do. These ape-like creatures have left an indelible mark on our understanding of human evolution, but their true place in the grand scheme of things remains shrouded in mystery. But if there's one thing we can say with certainty about Homo habilis, it's that they were absolute masters of the stone tool game. These early hominins are firmly associated with the Olduvai stone tool industry, a revolutionary technological leap that predates even the appearance of the genus Homo. The Olduvai tools were a far cry from the sophisticated hand axes and finely crafted blades of later Homo species. We're talking about simple choppers, core tools, and flakes, the kind of basic implements that would have been used for tasks like butchering animals and processing plant materials. Imagine these creatures their brows furrowed in concentration, carefully selecting the raw materials and striking the rocks with just the right amount of force to produce their sharp-edged tools. It's almost inconceivable that such primitive-looking hominins could have possessed the cognitive capabilities to master such a complex technological process. But master it they did, and the older one tools represented a significant cognitive leap for our ancestors. Homo habilis nappers, as they're known, had to understand the mechanics of rock fracture, coordinate their movements, and exercise a level of foresight and planning that was previously thought to be beyond the abilities of such early hominins. Notably, the older one tool industry was once thought to be the oldest of its kind, but recent discoveries have pushed the origins of stone tool making back even further. In 2010, archaeologists found evidence of cut marks on bones dated to 3.39 million years ago in Dakika, Ethiopia, and in 2015, the site of Lomekwi in Kenya yielded stone artifacts from 3.3 million years ago. This predates the emergence of the genus Homo, shattering the notion that tool making was solely a human endeavor. Now you might be wondering, where exactly did these stone-wielding weirdos call home? Well, the fossil evidence tells us that Homo habilis was a true East African native, with remains found across Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, and even South Africa, and the environments they inhabited were completely different from the concrete jungles and manicured suburbs of our modern world. Imagine a vast, sprawling savanna dotted with scrubby bushes and the occasional towering tree. This was the domain of Homo habilis. These early hominins would have had to contend with a veritable menagerie of deadly predators, from saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas to the ever-present threat of crocodiles and hippopotamuses. In fact, we have direct evidence of Homo habilis individuals who fell victim to these fearsome creatures, with fossils showing clear signs of bite marks and other deadly injuries. One particularly unsettling find is the fossil of a Homo habilis foot that appears to have been bitten off by a crocodile, perhaps the massive, monstrous Crocodilus anthropophagus, a species that could grow nearly a meter longer than the largest modern crocodiles. The mere thought of these ape men being snatched from the riverbank by such an ancient primordial horror is enough to send a chill down the spine. And it wasn't just the crocodiles they had to worry about. Fossils also reveal evidence of Homo habilis individuals who fell prey to the deadly jaws of leopards and the bone-crushing attacks of saber-toothed cats. From resilience and adaptability, Homo habilis were able to not only survive, but thrive in such a treacherous landscape, armed with nothing more than their wits and their trusty stone tools. Diet and culture. So how exactly did these early hominins manage to make out an existence in the harsh African wilderness? Well, it seems that Homo habilis was quite the opportunistic omnivore, with a diet that included a little bit of everything. From the remains of their meals, we know that they scavenged the remains of animals killed by other predators, using their stone tools to crack open bones and extract the nutrient-rich marrow. They also likely hunted smaller prey, such as antelopes, and supplemented their diet with a variety of plant materials, including fruits, tubers, and even the occasional insect. But Homo habilis wasn't just about filling their bellies. These early humans were also pioneers of the cultural realm. Archaeologists have found evidence that they may have constructed the earliest known structures, using piles of volcanic rocks to create rudimentary shelters and windbreaks. And while the jury's still out on whether they had the cognitive capacity for true language, these hominins were almost certainly capable of some form of rudimentary communication, perhaps through a combination of grunts, gestures, and primitive vocalizations. Evolutionary debate and classification. Now, you'd think that with such a unique set of characteristics, Homo habilis would be easy to classify, but they're not. The placement of this species within the human family tree has been the subject of heated debate for decades, and the jury is still very much out. Some scientists argue that Homo habilis is simply a variant of the earlier Australopithecus genus, while others insist that it deserves its own distinct spot within the Homo lineage. And then there's the whole Homo rudolfensis debacle, a closely related species that some experts believe should be lumped in with Homo habilis, while others maintain that they're separate entities. Where did Homo habilis come from? And where did they fit in the lineage that ultimately led to us, modern Homo sapiens? The answers to these questions remain elusive, shrouded in the mists of time and the gaps in the fossil record. As paleoanthropologist Ian Tattersall put it, the early Homo story is a mess that can only be untangled by acknowledging the greater diversity of hominins that existed in the past, far beyond the confines of the Homo and Australopithecus genera. Homo habilis, with its peculiar mix of features, is a prime example of this evolutionary complexity. Have you ever dreamed about zipping back in time to walk among the dinosaurs? Get ready for an adventure, because we're about to blast off 145 million years into the past, to the Cretaceous period. The Cretaceous period was the last part of the age of dinosaurs, lasting from about 145 to 66 million years ago. It was a time of giant creatures, weird plants, and a world very different from the one we know today. Let's imagine what it would be like if you suddenly found yourself transported to this prehistoric era. First things first, don't panic. Yes, there are dinosaurs everywhere, but not all of them want to eat you. In fact, most dinosaurs were plant eaters, but you'd still need to be careful and always watch your surroundings. As you look around, you'd notice the air feels different. It's much warmer than what you're used to, and there's more oxygen in the air. This extra oxygen is part of why everything in the Cretaceous seems supersized. The plants look strange too. There are no grass or flowers like we know them. Instead, you'd see lots of ferns, cycads, which look a bit like palm trees, and conifers, pine tree relatives. The ground is covered with moss and low-growing plants. Now, let's talk about your new neighbors, the dinosaurs. You might spot a herd of duck-billed hadrosaurs munching on plants nearby. These dinosaurs had hundreds of teeth, perfect for grinding tough plants. They're about as tall as a house and move in big groups. If you're lucky, you might even hear them making loud, trumpeting calls to communicate with each other. But wait, what's that stomping sound? Oh boy, it's a T-Rex. This fearsome predator is as long as a school bus and has teeth as big as bananas. Its tiny arms might look funny, but don't laugh. Those powerful jaws can crush bones. If you see one, it's best to hide or climb a tall tree. Speaking of trees, look up and you might see some flying reptiles called pterosaurs soaring overhead. Some are as small as sparrows, while others have wingspans wider than a small airplane. If you're near water, be extra careful. Lakes and rivers in the Cretaceous are home to crocodiles much bigger than the ones we have today. And in the oceans, you'd find giant marine reptiles like mosasaurs, which look like a cross between a crocodile and a snake, but as big as a school bus. Now you might be wondering, where are all the mammals? Well, they're around, but they're not the big, diverse group we know today. Most Cretaceous mammals were small, about the size of mice or rats. They mostly came out at night when the dinosaurs were sleeping. So how would you survive in this prehistoric world? Here are some tips. Number 1, find shelter. You'd need to find a safe place to sleep, like a cave or a sturdy treehouse. Make sure it's high enough or hidden enough to keep you safe from dinosaurs. Number 2, find food and water. There are lots of plants around, but be careful. Some might be poisonous. Stick to fruits and seeds from conifers. For meat, you could try fishing or hunting small animals. Always boil water from rivers or lakes to make it safe to drink. Number 3, make tools. You'd need to make your own tools for hunting, cooking, and building shelter. Rocks, sticks, and animal bones could be used to make simple tools and weapons. Number 4, stay alert. Always be aware of your surroundings. Learn to recognize dinosaur tracks and sounds so you can avoid dangerous predators. Number 5, find friends. Some dinosaurs, like Triceratops or Stegosaurus, were plant eaters and might ignore you if you don't bother them. They could even help keep predators away. Life in the Cretaceous would be an adventure, but also very dangerous. There's no electricity, no stores, no doctors, and definitely no internet. You'd have to be tough, smart, and lucky to survive. But it's not all scary. Imagine watching a sunset with a herd of long-necked sauropods silhouetted against the sky, or waking up to the calls of strange birds and pterosaurs. You might even witness the birth of baby dinosaurs. The Cretaceous was also a time of big changes on Earth. If you stayed long enough, millions of years, you'd see some amazing things happen. The Cretaceous was a time of incredible change. Continents drifted slowly into their modern positions, reshaping the world over millions of years. Towards the period's end, the first flowering plants emerged, painting the landscape with new colors and fragrances. Dinosaurs were constantly evolving, with new species appearing as others vanished. Feathered dinosaurs, the ancestors of today's birds, became increasingly common. The seas were also in flux, with levels rising and falling dramatically. Sometimes oceans flooded the land, creating new coastlines, while at other times they retreated, revealing fresh terrain. These changes happened gradually, over vast stretches of time. But if you could witness the entire Cretaceous period, you'd see a world in constant transformation, setting the stage for the planet we know today. But all good things must come to an end. The Cretaceous period ended with a bang, literally. About 66 million years ago, a giant asteroid hit the Earth. This impact caused huge changes all over the planet. There were earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanoes erupting everywhere. Dust and gases filled the sky, blocking out the sun and making it hard for plants to grow. Without plants, many plant-eating dinosaurs starved, and without them, the meat-eaters had no food either. This event, known as the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction, wiped out about 75% of all plant and animal species on Earth, including all non-bird dinosaurs. It was the end of the age of dinosaurs and the beginning of the age of mammals. But let's go back to our time travel adventure. What if you could bring something back from the Cretaceous? Maybe a dinosaur egg or a piece of amber with a prehistoric insect inside? Well, that might not be a good idea. Bringing anything from the past could change our present in ways we can't predict. Plus, a baby T-Rex wouldn't make a very good pet. Instead, why not use your imagination? You can explore the Cretaceous world through books, movies, and museum exhibits. You can even become a paleontologist and help discover new things about this amazing time in Earth's history. So what do you think? Would you want to visit the Cretaceous period if you could? It would be scary and dangerous, but also exciting and full of wonder. You'd see creatures and plants that no human has ever seen in real life. You'd breathe air from millions of years ago and walk on ground that might one day become fossils. The Cretaceous period was a time of giants, of strange and wonderful life forms, and of a world both alien and familiar. It was the last act in the long age of dinosaurs, setting the stage for the rise of mammals, and eventually, us. Next time you see a bird, remember, you're looking at a living dinosaur, a tiny window into that lost world of the Cretaceous. And who knows, maybe one day, scientists will find a way to bring some of these extinct creatures back to life. Until then, we'll have to rely on our imaginations, guided by the clues left behind in the rocks beneath our feet. So, keep exploring, keep imagining, and keep wondering about the amazing history of our planet. After all, every rock could hold a fossil, every fossil tells a story, and every story brings us a little closer to understanding the incredible world of the Cretaceous period. What if I told you there once was a creature so massive it made a T-Rex look like a chihuahua? A beast so tall it could touch a fifth-story window, and so heavy it left footprints you could swim in. This is the world of titanosaurs, the true titans of Earth's history. Titanosaurs were part of a group called sauropods. These were the long-necked, plant-eating dinosaurs you might have seen in pictures or movies. But titanosaurs were special. They were the biggest and last of their kind. They were like the grand finale in the long story of giant plant-eating dinosaurs. When titanosaurs first showed up, the world was very different from what we see today. It was much hotter, and the continents were still close together in a big landmass called Gondwana. The air had more carbon dioxide, which made plants grow really big. This was perfect for the giant titanosaurs who needed to eat a lot of food every day. These huge animals lived all over the world. They were found in South America, where some of the biggest titanosaurs lived. They also roamed across North America, Africa, and Asia. Amazingly, they even lived in Antarctica. Back then, Antarctica wasn't all ice and snow like it is now. It was warmer and had forests where titanosaurs could find food. Not all titanosaurs were the same size. Some were as big as elephants, which is still pretty large, but others were truly massive. The largest known titanosaur is called Patagotitan. It was longer than 3 school buses put together and weighed as much as 12 elephants. What made titanosaurs unique was their body shape. They had incredibly long necks, sometimes up to 11 meters long. That's like 2 tall giraffes stacked on top of each other. But these necks weren't heavy like you might think. They were full of air pockets, like bird bones. This made them lighter and easier to move. It was a clever trick that let titanosaurs reach high up into trees for food without falling over. Titanosaurs had small heads compared to their huge bodies. This might seem strange, but it worked well for them. Their teeth were shaped like pencils or spoons, perfect for stripping leaves off branches. They didn't chew their food like we do. Instead, they swallowed leaves whole and let their big stomachs do the work of digesting. Titanosaurs grew new teeth all their lives. Unlike us, who only get two sets of teeth, baby teeth and adult teeth, titanosaurs were constantly replacing their teeth. This was really useful because eating tough plants wore down their teeth quickly. Their legs were really interesting too. They stuck out to the sides, making titanosaurs look wide and sturdy. This helped them support their massive weight. Their leg bones were incredibly strong. The largest titanosaur leg bone ever found is 2.4 meters long. That's taller than most people. Even though they were huge, some titanosaurs could move pretty fast, up to 20 kilometers per hour. That's about as fast as a human can run. Imagine seeing a building-sized animal moving that quickly. Scientists have found lots of titanosaur fossils that tell us about their lives. One of the most exciting discoveries happened in 2021 when farmers in Argentina found bones of a massive titanosaur. It took years for scientists to carefully dig up all the bones. Finds like this help us understand just how big these animals could get. In Argentina, scientists also found a place where titanosaurs laid their eggs. This was a really important discovery because it showed us how these giant dinosaurs took care of their babies. They found hundreds of nests, each with about 25 eggs. The eggs were round and about the size of volleyballs. These nesting sites tell us that female titanosaurs dug nests and carefully buried their eggs, just like some modern animals do. This was surprising because it's hard to imagine such huge animals being gentle enough to make nests and lay eggs without breaking them. This discovery also showed that titanosaurs probably lived in groups, a herd of these giants walking together with the adults protecting the young ones. It must have been an amazing sight. Living in herds probably helped titanosaurs stay safe from predators. After all, even the biggest meat-eating dinosaurs would think twice before attacking a group of titanosaurs. We've learned about what titanosaurs ate by studying fossilized dinosaur poop. Yes, even dinosaur poop can turn into fossils. These fossils, called coprolites, tell us a lot about what titanosaurs ate. They ate all sorts of plants, including pine trees, ferns, and early flowering plants. Some scientists think they might have even eaten early types of grass. Titanosaurs played a big role in shaping the plant life of their time. Because they ate so much and traveled in herds, they could change entire forests. They might have helped spread plant seeds across large areas as they moved and pooped. This tells us that titanosaurs were important not just because they were big, but because they affected the whole environment around them. Titanosaurs lived all over the world, and scientists have found different species on every continent. Some famous ones include Patagotitan and Argentinosaurus from South America. These are among the largest land animals ever discovered. In North America, there was Alamosaurus, which lived right up until the time when dinosaurs went extinct. Africa had its own titanosaurs too. Paralititan lived in what is now Egypt, but back then it was a coastal area with lots of mangrove trees. In Asia, scientists found Juchengtitan in China. There's even a titanosaur called Australotitan found in Australia. In Europe, which was mostly islands during the time of the titanosaurs, something interesting happened. Because the islands had limited food, some titanosaurs evolved to be smaller. This is called island dwarfism, and it's something we see in other animals too. One example is Megalodon, a titanosaur from Romania that was much smaller than its relatives on larger continents. Sadly, titanosaurs died out when a big asteroid hit Earth about 66 million years ago. This event, which happened near what is now Mexico, caused huge changes all over the world. It created giant tsunamis, started big fires, and put so much dust in the air that it blocked out the sun for a long time. This killed many plants, which meant there wasn't enough food for big plant eaters like titanosaurs. This event didn't just kill titanosaurs, it marked the end of all dinosaurs except for the ancestors of birds. Even though titanosaurs are gone, scientists are still learning a lot about them. They use some really cool tools to study titanosaur fossils. One of these is computer modeling. Scientists input information from fossils into powerful computers, which then create 3D models of how these dinosaurs looked and moved. This helps us understand things like how titanosaurs held their necks, how they walked, and even how fast they could move. New ways of finding fossils are helping scientists discover more titanosaur remains. One exciting method is using ground-penetrating radar. This special radar can see underground and help locate fossils without having to dig up large areas. This is really helpful because it means scientists can find fossils while causing less damage to the surrounding area. There's still a lot we don't know about titanosaurs. How did they grow so big? Some scientists think it might have to do with their bird-like respiratory system, which could have helped them get more oxygen. How did their stomachs work to digest so many plants? They must have had very efficient digestive systems to get enough nutrition from leaves and branches. Are there even bigger titanosaurs we haven't found yet? Every year, new fossils are discovered, so it's possible there are even larger titanosaurs waiting to be found. These are questions that young scientists might answer one day. Maybe some of the kids reading about titanosaurs now will grow up to be paleontologists. How living things change over long periods of time. They evolved from earlier, smaller sauropods, gradually getting bigger and developing new features like their wide-set legs and air-filled bones. This reminds us that life is always adapting and changing in response to its environment. Every time scientists find a new titanosaur fossil, we learn more about these amazing creatures and the world they lived in. Sometimes, a single bone can tell us a lot. For example, by studying the growth rings in titanosaur bones, similar to tree rings, scientists can tell how fast these animals grew and how long they lived. In recent years, there have been some exciting titanosaur discoveries. In 2014, farmers in Argentina found fossils of a new species of titanosaur. When scientists excavated the bones, they realized they had found one of the largest dinosaurs ever. They named it Patagatitan majorum. This discovery made headlines all over the world and got many people excited about dinosaurs. Another interesting find was made in Australia. In 2021, scientists announced that the discovery of Australotitan cooperensis, nicknamed the Southern Titan. This was the largest dinosaur ever found in Australia, showing that titanosaurs lived all over the world. Titanosaurs have captured people's imaginations all over the world. Many museums have exhibits featuring titanosaur fossils or full-size models. Some of these models are so big that they can't fit into a single room. Seeing these displays helps people understand just how enormous these animals were.